Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.
Todd never sugarcoats it. Does he tell it straight? You bet. Does he deliver with a sense of humor? Always.
I always start my Sunday mornings off listening to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. It has tons of information, and he has such a great sense of humor.
My friends and I always tune in to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Hold on tight. Don't let go. It's time for the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Just like cherry cola, C-O-L-A cola. She walked up to me and she asked me to dance. I asked her her name and in a dark brown voice she said Lola, L-O-L-A Lola, la 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 Lola. She squeezed me tight, she nearly broke my spine. Oh my Lola, la 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 Lola. Well, I'm not dumb, but I can't understand why she walked like a woman but talked like a man. Oh my Lola, la 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 Lola, la 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 Lola.
Welcome to the Todd L. Levitt Marijuana Law Podcast. Good morning, good evening, and good night. I'm yours truly, Attorney Todd L. Levitt, broadcasting and podcasting from the Black Diamond Group mothership in the middle of the mitten, a beautiful, beautiful legal hemp field with some nutrients all around. The hemp is growing. The state is recreational. I'm in the mothership, and you're Craig Russell, and that does not rhyme at all.
Not even close, but that's okay.
I got it all out, though, didn't I?
Yes, you did. It doesn't have to rhyme, though, so that's fine.
Yeah, and we opened again with, by far, this one's for Gavin out there. Gavin, this is my number one group of all time, the Kinks. We opened once again with Lola. I love Lola.
I've said it before, and I'll probably end up saying it again, but your top 5, top 10, top 20, and all that stuff, this is far and away number one with a bullet. 38 million weeks in a row for Todd is Lola.
We've played this song more often than anything on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Hey, Craig, huge show coming up for the listeners. We have huge show.
Big show.
Big show. Two special guests are coming on. First, we have Dr. Robert Townsend from Denali Healthcare. Dr. Bob is always one of our most popular guest on the show.
Yes, and a longtime supporter of the show as well. So
huge.
Yep.
And an advocate who's been supporting, the Medical Marijuana Act from the offset. He's a military man. He's a veteran. He's a medical doctor. Good friend of the show. Denali Healthcare. Can't say enough about Dr. Bob. And returning is who?
Steve Lehto. Oh, big consumer protection lawyer and also big car buff and big history guy who's been on the show before. He blows it up on social media. He'll be in segment 3 of the show talking about hemp cars.
Yeah, hemp cars. Jay Leno's a personal friend of attorney Steve Lehto. Steve will be talking about hemp cars, and you definitely want to stay tuned for Steve. Hey, Craig, but before we get to that, I have a lot to get to before the show starts.
I know, so do I. So
yeah, last week I was up in Grand Traverse County, court up there. So big shout out to all the folks who work at Grand Traverse County. They do a great job there in Michigan, Traverse City, the 13th Circuit Court, the 86th District Court. They got Judge Stepka up there, Judge Phillips. They do a great job, and people complain, but I like to think positive and say positive things about people and places and things.
You do that very, very well. That is so true.
Yeah, so I was up in Grand Traverse. The security guys, when you walk in, they were very respectful, very courteous. They do a great job, too, keeping everyone safe. And Deputy Williams in Kalkaska, during Michigan's worst storm of the year, I was in Kalkaska Court one day. where Deputy Williams is always, very gracious and professional. And then the following day, I was in Grand Traverse County. I'm all over the map there in the middle of the mitten. But big shout out to everyone out there, especially Jane and Eugene Arndt. So I want to give a big shout out to the Arndt family up there in Prescott and Skidway area up there. Good folks that listen to the show each week, Jane and Eugene.
And they listen to it on Rock 105 and Rock 95.5, We Just Rock, and also on 98.5 UPS, and podcasting all over God's green earth. We're in how many different countries are we in now?
We're in like 4 dozen countries now listening to this show on all the different podcast platforms. I just found out that 2 of my fraternity brothers, Eddie Walker and Pat Lambo, listen to the show on podcast on Spotify.
Sweet.
So big shout out to Pooter, Eddie Walker, and Lambo. Lambo is actually the principal of the Tech High School in Traverse City, and he does a great job up there. I went up and saw him last week. So big shout to Lambo and Eddie, both my roommates and fraternity brothers, Sig Epps, and 2 of my best friends for sure. I got another big shout out.
Okay, who for?
To myself.
Okay, why is that?
Well, I don't know. I'm always giving shout outs to everybody else. Why not just give a shout out to myself?
I'm going to give
big
a shout
out to myself.
I'm going to give a shout out to you, Todd. Welcome to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, Todd. How about that?
Yeah, we got Chad E listening. Big shout out to Chad, my boy Cobb in Williamsburg. I can go on and on and on. But hey, by the way, during that storm, we had some massive storms that came across the country, the Rockies into the Midwest here, and just dumped inches and inches all over the Mitten State. I got to give a big shout out to all the plow drivers out there that work for the county road services in the various counties around the state, and all the individual men and women who plow the driveways and clear it out. They don't get enough credit, and they're up all night long doing their job so that you can get to work each and every day. But just as planned, Craig, it never fails. The worse the weather gets, the worse the drivers get. I don't understand that. I truly don't understand that philosophy that there's ice and snow and rain out there and sleet, and people drive like idiots. I just don't get it at all.
Well, you know what it is. They've got these big trucks and these big SUVs, and they're 4-wheel drive, and they got these huge tires, which means they can go 100 miles an hour on anything, and nothing's ever going to happen to them. And guess what? They're wrong. I hate that. Hate it.
Yeah. And the thing is, I see these, I'm in a truck, a big old Chevy Silverado, and I'm driving like a turtle because it doesn't matter if you have a truck or 4-wheel drive.
No.
Ice is ice, folks.
Yeah.
And you see these little puny cars, kind of like the one Big Hair has, flying down the road. And it's just like, man, that is just so reckless. That's ridiculous. So I don't know. It makes no sense to me. And I think a lot of people agree with me on that. But hey, Craig, guess what? I'm going to be on the Dude Grow Show podcast. It's called The Dude Grow Show at dudegrows.com. Isn't that cool on YouTube?
That's awesome.
What do you think of that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're finally branching out. That's great.
Yeah, they got a great show and a great podcast. So I definitely recommend all the listeners check out Dude Grow Show, Scotty and the Dude. I got a call at my office here at the law firm from J.R. Token. How do you like that name?
Wow.
So J.R. left a message to me that my man Chad reached out to them and said, hey, you got to check out Todd's podcast. And they did, and they loved it. So here they contacted me. So I'm driving up to Grand Traverse County the other day for court. I'm up at 6 a.m. thinking I got to call this JR guy back. So I dialed his digits, and as it turned out, he's in Oregon. It was 3 a.m. and I woke him up. So,
whoops.
Yeah, exactly. So sorry about that, JR Token. But we touched base, and I'll be going on the Dude Grow Show here at the end of the month. So big shout out to those guys.
JR Token. That's funny.
Isn't that the greatest thing? And hey, if you're just tuning in for the first time, I am attorney Todd L. Levitt, and you are Craig Russell, and we come to you each and every Sunday morning right here on 98.5 WUPS. Together, we're Craig.
Rock 105 and Rock 95.5. Cartman and Smitty, we just rock. Traverse City.
We just rock.
Hey, Todd, if I asked you, do you know who the actor Zac Efron is?
Of course, you don't think I have not watched the Grease of the 2000s High School Musical?
I know.
Over and over with my kids when it came out. I mean, it drove me nuts. I recall back in the day, all the women wanted to watch All My Children, Luke and Laura, and then came Grease. High School Musical was sort of that genre for my kids when they were younger.
That's right. Well, Zac Efron hurt himself You know how he hurt himself? He's a mountain bike rider. And I saw a headline and I said, oh my God, that's Todd. Because you know what he said? He hurt himself shredding the gnar. Actually was the headline on TMZ. Zac Efron hurts himself shredding the gnar. And I said, oh, that's Todd right there. Shredding the gnar.
Wow. You think we can get Zach on the show?
That'd be cool if we could. If he could come on and say, hey, this is Zac Efron, and I was shredding the gnar with Todd L. Levitt. But
wow.
I saw that and I immediately thought of you. I thought, wow, even Zac Efron shreds the gnar.
Shredding the gnar. You can also shred
means.
the gnar on a Burton snowboard 154. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
Yeah, hey, we got a huge show, though. Dr. Bob Townsend's coming on the show after the break. We got attorney Steve Lehto joining the mothership later on in the show to talk about all the hemp vehicles. And again, we have some 420 Expo information for the listeners, so stay tuned for that.
And we'll have Dr. Bob in the mothership next on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. We'll be right back.
This is attorney Todd L. Levitt with an important message.
What's that, Todd?
Craig, mark your calendar. April 20th, 2019, the nation's premier event for everything cannabis and hemp is descending on the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort located right here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
What's that, Todd?
420 Canna Expo will feature the industry's most knowledgeable professionals from cultivation, medical, recreational, research, staffing, canna tourism, smoke shops, grow shops, merchandisers, glass makers, and more. Every facet of the industry will be represented on April 20th, 2019 at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. For more information on attending, sponsorship, and exhibitor space, log on to 420cannaexpo.com. That's 420cannaexpo.com. And stay tuned to our podcast for more information.
In the club down in Old Soho, where you drink champagne and it tastes just like cherry cola. C-O-L-A cola. She walked up to me and she asked me to dance. I asked her her name and in a dark brown voice she said Lola. L-O-L-A Lola. La 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 la. She squeezed me tight, she nearly broke my spine. And oh my Lola, la 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 la. Well, I'm not dumb, but I can't understand why she walked like a woman but talked like a man. Oh my Lola, la 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 la, la 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 la.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, coming back strong with Lola by the Kinks. Craig, Lola is just certified and bona fide. The Kinks just destroy it.
That is your number one, far and away, with a bullet 38 months in a row.
I love Lola. Hey, without further ado, let's bring on my good friend of the show. He's been on many times, Dr. Bob Townsend, Denali Healthcare. Dr. Bob, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Todd. It's great to be here. I always like coming on with you.
Yeah, you and I get together often, more often than the listeners hear us on the show. And you are literally one of the most knowledgeable individuals when it comes to anything and everything. Well, one, you're a medical doctor, but two, you have so much insight into Michigan's Medical Marijuana Act, and now that we're recreational, I mean, your knowledge is just second to none. So, I mean, anyone and everyone out there, by the way, if you're interested in obtaining a medical marijuana card, which I highly recommend if you have a medical condition, and especially that provides immunity, albeit Michigan is a recreational state, you still need that immunity. Be sure to call Dr. Bob at 989-339-4464. It's 989-339-4464. Just Google Denali, D-E-N-A-L-I, Healthcare, Dr. Bob, and be sure to make an appointment. But Dr. Bob, let's get right to it.
We're right to it getting.
So, Dr. Bob, the question the listeners have, and I have, is what are the benefits of still having a medical marijuana card now that Michigan is a recreational state? We've had 10 years of law under medical marijuana, and I say 10 years of law whereby attorneys have fought decisions, and it's gone all the way up to the higher courts under the medical marijuana law. I mean, are we going to have to relitigate and establish, new court precedents now that we're recreational, such as Kuhn and McQueen cases and other cases? I mean, what do you see happening here?
Well, man, you're the lawyer, not me, so I think you might know a little bit better. One of my concerns, though, is that this is going to be viewed as a kink in the armor. And, in backgammon, we have this thing called Woolsey's Law, and that is, I make my problem your problem. So rather than the prosecutor struggling with these things, they may decide just to, let's file charges and let them fight it out in the court.
I see that happening.
I don't necessarily think that's right, and I think it puts a lot of strain on people, but it's a possibility. There's a lot of things that you can still use your medical marijuana card for. You get Section 4 and Section 8 defenses. You get some professional licensure and business license protections. There's a lot of advantages. You have a tax break. You have different quantities that you can do. For example, under medical marijuana law, you can have 2.5 ounces of marijuana. You can also have 2.5 ounces of concentrate. Now, under the recreational law, it's a little different. You can have up to 10 ounces of marijuana. But there's a little trap in there, and we'll go over that in a second. But the thing is, you can only have 15 grams of concentrate. So if you're a cancer patient or somebody that would qualify for a medical marijuana card, you just get an awful lot more protection if you have that card. As far as, the fee for the card, it really isn't all that much. It's far less than, half an ounce of cannabis? And for that, you get a tax reduction, which could go from 16 down to 3% if you go to a dispensary. The other thing that a lot of people, I think, don't realize is that medical marijuana provisioning centers and recreational marijuana provisioning centers require different licensure. And they're not even going to write the rules to apply for that license until December of 2019. So if you've been going to your local provisioning center because you have your card, and you let your card lapse, you can't go there anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are somebody out there that you feel you have a medical condition that qualifies you for a Michigan, we're talking about Michigan, a Michigan medical marijuana card, be sure to call Denali Healthcare, my good friend Dr. Bob Townsend at 989-339-4464. As a defense attorney, I talk about the immunity a medical marijuana card provides you over not having that immunity. So if two people are driving down a roadway, one gets pulled over, the officer smells marijuana, and the individual's not a card holder, that individual, if other elements are present, could be charged, arrested with operating with the presence of a controlled substance in his or her blood. Michigan is a zero tolerance state. We don't have THC limits at this point as we do with alcohol. If the other driver gets pulled over, same facts, that individual is a medical marijuana card holder. And again, if the facts are present, then there's immunity, and that driver, as long as they're not driving impaired, is going to be let go and on his or her way. So you're absolutely correct, Dr. Bob. There still is a lot of immunity to be gained with being a card holder, and just because we're a recreational state, if someone qualifies, they should definitely give your office a call.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And, you bring up a really good point with that, and that is the different standard for drivers under recreational and medical marijuana. As you say, Michigan is a zero-tolerance state. So that's step one. Now, if you are a recreational marijuana driver, that is the end of your defense right there, okay? If you are a medical marijuana card holder, the officer then must also prove impairment. That duty to prove impairment is not necessarily there for a recreational user. So you get a little extra protection with that. That little insurance policy is well worth the price of a card.
Absolutely. Dr. Bob, tell the listeners about your background. You're a medical doctor. You served in the military. You've got a distinguished career.
Well, I've done a job or two. I've been a newspaper reporter. I've been a paramedic in the city of Lansing. I was in the Army as a medic and then became an Army officer. I'm currently still serving my country and my community a little bit in a voluntary civilian basis. And, I'm using my flying skills for that. But yeah, I've got quite a background, and it's something that I've been always interested in doing, was just learning a lot about different jobs and things like that. And, I've held a number of them. I've been a doctor now for almost 30 years, and I've never worked a day in my life as a doctor. Every day that I walk in, I have an opportunity to sit down and help some people. So it's never been work for me.
And the other interesting thing is you have a YouTube channel. Can you tell us a little bit about the channel or channels, and how can listeners and viewers find you online?
Well, we all have hobbies. And, starting last Thanksgiving, I decided I was going to put together a YouTube channel on science issues. So I became Bob the Science Guy. And, if you do a YouTube search for Bob the Science Guy, Michigan, I think you'll find me pretty easy. I use one of the characters from the X-Files, the Smoking Man, as my avatar. And, I started off just answering questions about aviation and things like that. And believe it or not, I got into debunking the flat Earth. So I've got videos in there on how to measure the weight of the Earth, and how to, 6 ways to detect rotation of the Earth from the ground, and all sorts of things. And that's called Flat Earth Can't Science with Bob the Science Guy. And then I just started another channel, a series, and that is Northwoods Scientist. And what that is it's not a debunking channel or anything like that. But what we do is we go over scientific discoveries like, the Cavendish experiment demonstrating the gravitational constant. And we kind of go through those. And, it's designed primarily for high school students and homeschoolers and people that want to just learn a little bit about science. It's not very math heavy. It's nothing that a middle school or an early high school student couldn't handle. And it's just a lot of fun. And apparently I'm doing a pretty good job of it, because last Thanksgiving I had 15 subscribers. And as of this morning, I've got 4,200 subscribers.
Wow.
You can tell it's me because it says Northern Michigan physician, pilot, and critical thinker. And, apparently it's pretty popular, because in the last 28 days, I've had 1.6 million minutes of view time and over 200,000 views on my channel.
Wow. Hey, we have attorney Steve Lehto coming up in the show. He's going to be talking about hemp vehicles. Maybe you could do a video on, the strength of hemp and how it's used in various industries. That'd be pretty cool to see on your channel.
Yeah, we'd put that under Northwood Scientist. I could probably put together an episode on that. And maybe Steve might want to mirror that on his channel.
I think he would.
Old-timer YouTuber, I think.
Yeah, he would do that.
I got a mention from one of the big-time YouTubers out in England, this week, and I got 500 subscribers that day just because he mentioned me at the end of his show. You get somebody that's got a good-sized YouTube channel and they mirror one of my videos because it's of interest to them. That would just make my channel take off.
Dr. Bob the Science Guy. I've got to check that out on YouTube. Hey, talk a little bit, Dr. Bob, about Denali Healthcare and all your locations around Michigan where people can stop and see you.
Okay, well, Denali Healthcare, we've been serving the medical marijuana community now for almost 10 years. We have offices in Gaylord, Mount Pleasant, Cadillac, up in Marquette, and down in Kalamazoo. And, we've never had a certification of mine overturned to my knowledge. At least certainly not one that I was involved in the defense of, and I do defend my certifications.
So if you are looking for a medical marijuana card, or you just need Dr. Bob's advice about things, or you want to check out Dr. Bob the Science Guy on YouTube, you can do that. Dr. Bob, Dr. Robert Townsend from Denali Healthcare, thanks for coming on the show. We always love having you on.
I always love to have the opportunity to come out on your show and talk to people and answer questions. It's just kind of the way I am. I think information is a very important thing for people to have.
Dr. Bob Townsend, my friend of the show, friend of yours, also Bob the Science Guy on YouTube. Be sure to check it out. Hey, Craig, We have to go to break, so take us out and bring us back. And when we come back from break, we're going to be joined by attorney Steve Lehto of Lehto's Law. And Steve also has a YouTube channel. We're going to be talking to Lehto about hemp vehicles when we come back from break. This is attorney Todd L. Levitt with an important message.
What's that, Todd?
Craig, mark your calendar. April 20th, 2019, the nation's premier event for everything cannabis and hemp is descending on the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort located right here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
What's that, Todd?
420 Canna Expo will feature the industry's most knowledgeable professionals from cultivation, medical, recreational, research, staffing, canna tourism, smoke shops, grow shops, merchandisers, glass makers, and more. Every facet of the industry will be represented on April 20th, 2019 at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. For more information on attending, sponsorship, and exhibitor space, log on to 420cannaexpo.com. That's 420cannaexpo.com. And stay tuned to our podcast for more information.
In the club down in Old Soho, where you drink champagne and it tastes just like cherry cola. C-O-L-A cola. She walked up to me and she asked me to dance. I asked her her name and in a dark brown voice she said Lola. L-O-L-A Lola. La 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 la. She squeezed me tight, she nearly broke my spine. And oh my Lola, la 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 Lola. Well, I'm not dumb, but I can't understand why she walked like a woman but talked like a man. Oh my Lola, la 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 Lola, la 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 Lola.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, broadcasting and podcasting from the mothership in the middle of the mitten, a beautiful green nutrient field mitten, that is, the Mitten State, Michigan. Coming back strong once again with my all-time favorite, Lola, by the Kinks. I love Lola, Craig.
This is if you always talk about your top 5 and top 10 and all this, but this is your number one, far and away.
I love Lola, Craig.
I know you do.
No.
Whoever she is.
Her name is Lola,
yes.
And she's great. Hey, without further ado, Steve Lehto's in the mothership. Attorney extraordinaire, YouTube star, Steve Lehto, attorney at law. Steve, welcome back to the show.
It's good to be here. In fact, I like this show so much it seems like I never leave.
That's what I would say. That's what I would say.
You know, for those who are just tuning in, attorney Steve Lehto and I, we go back to the 90s, 25 years, if not further, when we both started practicing law in Metro Detroit. And Steve is a shredder. He shreds the gnar on a mountain bike, and he's the one that got me started. And then Steve used to have a horse tournament outside his house. And one year I actually won the tournament, right, Steve? Where you throw the ball in the hoop, and I won. Exactly. I had a trophy. Yeah. So
yeah. But our good friend Adam Alexander's an attorney. He's got the trophy now, and since that was the last one when he won it, he's just got to keep it.
Big shout out to Adam Alexander. But Steve, why don't, for those who are just tuning in or have not heard, listened to you on a podcast or radio show, tell us a little bit about your extraordinary background.
Well, I specialize in lemon law. I've been practicing lemon law now for 27 years in the state of Michigan. But I also write books because I like cars so much. I've written a bunch of history books about Michigan, including a couple automotive histories. I wrote a book about the Chrysler Turbine Car Project. I wrote a book about Preston Tucker, the guy who tried to start the Tucker Car Company after World War II. And along the way, I've got to do a bunch of fun stuff. I got to meet Jay Leno. In fact, Jay Leno wrote the foreword to 2 of my books because he actually has a turbine car, which he let me drive. Heck of a nice guy. And then I also make videos for YouTube. So if anybody's interested in seeing what I look like when I talk, you go to Steve Lehto, Lehto on YouTube.
So, Steve, I know you just talked about Jay Leno. Talk a little bit about him and the hemp car. This is fascinating.
Well, yeah, and Jay Leno's a big car guy. He's got a huge collection of cars that he owns, but he also is well known in the community as just a guy who loves cars. And so he's got a show called Jay Leno's Garage, named after where he keeps all his cars, which is, it seems obvious until you see his garage and you realize he's got something like 120 cars and like 150 motorcycles. But on his TV show a while back, a guy actually brought out a car. It's a really, really neat looking red sports car. It looks kind of Ferrari-ish. It's got those nice curves and all that. And it's a really, really neat car. And him and Jay take it for a spin. And while they're talking, the guy says, oh, by the way, this thing's got a body made out of hemp. and it's kind of funny because you wouldn't know that by looking at it, but the guy was trying to figure out things that he could do that would be more carbon neutral, which is the politically correct way of saying, how can we make something that's more environmentally friendly? And so, the car doesn't, it has a regular engine and everything in it, but the main thing is that the body is made out of this composite material that they've one of the major portions of it is hemp. And so they said that by making the body out of that material will save tons of carbon dioxide, which is created when you make metal body panels for a car. And the interesting thing is the guy points out that the body panels that are made out of this hemp composite are 10 times stronger than steel.
Wow.
So that's insane.
I watched the show. In fact, if you poke around the internet and type in Jay Leno hemp car, you'll find it. It's not his car, but a guy who's showing it to him. But they go for a ride, and the guy shows them, you can walk up and basically, punch this what the body panels, and it's extremely durable, and it's resistant to impact and so on.
Is it more lightweight? Does it save on gas or anything like that? Or is it just the same weight as a normal car, even a car with plastic panels, or what is it?
It's lighter weight than metal.
Okay.
I mean metal by steel, which is the typical thing they make body panels out of. Some cars will actually have aluminum body panels, which are extremely expensive. But the problem with aluminum is that it's hard to work with, it's expensive, but also it gets damaged fairly easily. You can punch a hole through aluminum. But my understanding is that this hemp material is actually extremely durable and lightweight. And so that's actually a very good thing on a car. There's two things you can do to make a car go faster, in essence, is either increase the horsepower or decrease the weight. And each one gets you going faster, so it's worth looking into,
Hey, Steve, am I correct that Henry Ford actually manufactured the first original hemp car way back in like the early 1940s?
Yeah, and see, that's the cool thing. And this guy will openly tell you that it wasn't his idea to build a hemp car. I mean, he built a nice-looking, fast, sexy hemp car, but it turns out that Henry Ford built a hemp car back in 1941. And I remember reading about this because, Henry Ford had a lot of great ideas, and he's, of course, the one who's famous for, with the assembly line and making a car that people could afford and paying his workers a great daily wage and so on. But he was also experimenting with other things that you could do. And he became fascinated with the idea that you could make body panels out of any kind of fibrous material. And back in the 30s and 40s, hemp did not have the reputation it developed later. So that at the time, hemp was just another material. And so he actually built a 1941 car and demonstrated it to the press. You can go online and find videos of it. Popular Mechanics wrote an article about it. And the quote they have is, "The experimental model is pictured as a step towards materialization of Henry Ford's belief that someday he could grow automobiles from the soil." And that's what he was really getting at, was you don't have to go out and mine the raw materials. You can get farmers to grow the stuff, whether it be hemp or whatever you're going to put into the mixture to make these cars. And Henry Ford's hemp car weighed more than 300 pounds less than a comparable model using, full steel body panels.
Yeah, what's crazy is, though, with all that being said, up until recently, the federal government considered hemp as dangerous as heroin under the Controlled Substance Act under Schedule 1. So, yeah, how about that, elected officials in Congress in Washington? What took you so long to move on hemp? Which I'm glad you finally did with the Farm Bill. There's still some more work to be done, but free the weed now. Free the weed. That's all I'm saying. Hey, do you think you can make a car out of the other great plant there, Steve? The cannabis plant? And not. What do you think? I mean, you could refer to hemp as cannabis. I just think it's ridiculous that it took so long for the Farm Bill to be passed.
Yeah, and I guess also they're talking about, most cars these days burn gasoline, some burn diesel, but they've experimented, of course, with things like alcohol or alcohol mixtures, and there's also a lot of vehicles they talk about being multi-fuel. Like the Chrysler Turbine car would run on anything that burned. And my understanding is they've actually looked at hemp as a potential fuel source because, I'm sure you've heard them taking, like, for instance, grain or corn and extracting alcohol from it. And my understanding is that you can extract things from hemp that would actually be possibly used as fuel. So what's scary is the fact that this stuff was illegal for so long that I think
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Steve, that's why I'm complaining week after week after week on this show due to the schedule of the hemp under Schedule 1. It just blows my frickin' mind.
Well, I'll tell you right now that one of the things I've discovered about human nature is that people will often not think about this stuff until it affects them or until something's in the news that catches their attention. And I think I found it. Porsche, the German car maker who makes sports cars, Porsche has just released a last generation Cayman GT4 race car that includes body panels made out of hemp. I'm not making this up, and I did not know this until I was looking at this earlier today. Instead of wearing carbon fiber fenders, the new car's body panels are made out of hemp, which means that it's just as light as carbon fiber. There are exotic cars that cost like $1 million, and they've got things on them that are made out of carbon fiber, which is this space age, like, RoboCop stuff. Well, it turns out you can do these vegan body panels and it lightens the car up, and these doors and body panels are extremely, extremely durable. So they're going to have two versions of the sports car available, the Club Sport and the Competition, and they're talking about selling these to the public. Now, they might not be street legal, but they might be track legal, meaning that you can buy the car and race it on the track. But, I mean, if you've got the money to buy a Cayman GT4, I think you'll be fine just racing it on the track. But you can go out there when your buddy's on track day and be ripping around the track in your hemp car and beating them, by the way.
Thank goodness it's now an agricultural product, or else otherwise you'd have law enforcement on the track arresting you and your car and detaining your car. Now we need a third lane. I've been advocating for a third lane on the highways for a long time there, Attorney Steve Lehto. You've got the right lane that you're supposed to be traveling in. You got the left passing lane. I want a third lane so you can just chillax. If you're in a recreational state like the state of Michigan or any of the other states, you can just chillax in your hemp vehicle and just chill down the road. And I got to tell you, I complained at the offset of the show here. We have some disastrous weather here in the state of Michigan, and people were driving like idiots, flying all over the place. The worse the weather gets, it seems like the worse people drive. And I was just chilling in my truck trying to drive responsibly, but I'd like to do so on the highway. I'd like to get a hemp vehicle and just chillax listening to the Kinks or, listening to Steve Lehto on YouTube. You got a great YouTube channel, by the way. Hey, Steve, and again, if you're just tuning in, we're talking with one of my top all-time friends, best friends, Attorney Steve Lehto. Steve, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. Again, where can they find you? I mean, you got a great YouTube channel. You've written books. Who are you?
I tell people, if you want to find me on the internet, type in Steve Lehto, and about 30 seconds later, you'll be sick of me because I've got a huge internet presence, but it's Steve Lehto, Lehto. And for those who haven't figured this out yet, Todd and I used to do a lot of mountain biking together. And in fact, it's kind of funny because, Todd, I remember I called you up because I saw an article about you in the paper. And I said, that's a guy I want to get together with and talk about promotion of law practice because I had just started going solo a few years earlier. And you and I were talking about 30 seconds in. Somebody mentioned mountain bikes. I don't remember the context, but all I know is I think either later that evening or the next day, you and I were out mountain biking together.
We put on a lot of miles together, wearing a lot of spandex, my friend. I mean, you still wear spandex really well, Steve. I'm just letting you know.
Thanks for noticing.
But that's really interesting, And Steve, you are a consumer lawyer. There's so much to, the knowledge that's contained in your noggin there. But I just love your YouTube channel. I love the information you put out there. You have tens of thousands of followers. So please subscribe to Steve Lehto's channel and all his social media. But again, just to recap, Jay Leno, he owns that car, right, Steve?
No.
Or he was just test driving
show,
it.
But he went out and took it out for a drive, but he put it on national TV, which I think was a big deal because that guy's who's built the car is trying really hard to get attention. I think he's probably looking for investors and so on. But it's just a really cool thing, and Jay was impressed by the fact that the car runs really nice, and
I don't want to give away any ideas, but I don't want to give away any ideas out there to all our listeners. But hey, Lehto, what do you say? You and I start a bike company, and we make all of our frames out of hemp products.
Yeah,
there we go. Don't tell anybody. I think we should have each other sign a non-disclosure agreement, and no one's listening to the show or podcast anyhow. That's a great idea. Yeah. Dr. Bob is still in the mothership. He agrees with me on that. So.
Yeah, by the way,
thumbs up from Dr. Bob Townsend.
Yeah, the guy who built the hemp car, by the way, and this is just not some guy in his garage. It's a guy who's a retired Dell executive named Bruce Dietzen. So, I mean, this is a guy who actually is thinking to himself, like, hey, this is such a great idea. I'm going to, work on this, promote this, get word out on the idea. And like I said, most people are totally unaware of the fact that hemp has other uses beyond possibly what, obviously, I'm sure people have heard of like hemp rope or hemp cloth or whatever. But no. That's like the Stone Age with what they've accomplished lately with it.
So do you think other automotive companies are going to jump aboard the hemp bandwagon now?
Well, I'm sure it's going to boil down to whether somebody out there starts manufacturing this stuff in huge quantities in terms of the material to make these body parts. Because it's a kind of a I don't want to use the word plastic because that's not right, but they make this composite material. And as with anything in the automotive industry, it's all cost. So if somebody out there starts mass producing this stuff and gets the cost down, I'm sure they'll look at it because, car companies are looking to save weight. Nowadays, with the CAFE standards where the government's saying you guys have got to get your fleet economy to a certain number, at miles per gallon over all your vehicles. And there's only so much they can do with the engines. And so one of the things they can do is lighten the vehicles up. And that's why Ford went to, aluminum pickup truck beds a few years ago. And it was a huge cost to them, but it saved a bunch of weight, so it made sense. So the hemp body panels weigh less, but have the same durability. It would make sense to go there as long as they are roughly the same price or even close.
Wow. Outstanding information. Hey, Steve, we have to let you go, though. We have to go to break. And I definitely, again, thank you so much for coming on the show, the mothership here in the middle of the mitten. By the way, we're broadcasting from a beautiful green nutrient field, and it's a hemp field now that it is an agricultural product. And, Steve, I'm hoping that you can make it to our 420 Expo at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort on 420. Attorney Mike Comorn is going to be speaking, and actually Mike's going to be speaking about the hemp farming bill and how it affects anyone and everyone here in the state of Michigan that's looking to get into hemp production. So make sure you come out to 420. And Steve, I'm trying to get you to do your show from the expo. So, I'm putting you on the spot there.
I've got some logistics I'm working on, but if I can make it happen, I will.
Everybody wants to see Steve Lehto. You are a handsome man, my friend. Handsome man.
Thank you, sir.
But again, how can listeners find you online, Steve?
Just look me up, Steve Lehto, Lehto. Use any search engine, and like I said, you'll find me so fast it'll blow your mind.
Yeah, subscribe to his show. Great YouTube show. All right, Steve. Take care, brother.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
Thanks again, Steve. We'll be back on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show right after this.
This is attorney Todd L. Levitt with an important message.
What's that, Todd?
Craig, mark your calendar. April 20th, 2019, the nation's premier event for everything cannabis and hemp is descending on the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort located right here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
What's that, Todd?
420 Canna Expo will feature the industry's most knowledgeable professionals from cultivation, medical, recreational, research, staffing, canna tourism, smoke shops, grow shops, merchandisers, glass makers, and more. Every facet of the industry will be represented on April 20th, 2019 at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. For more information on attending, sponsorship, and exhibitor space, log on to 420cannaexpo.com. That's 420cannaexpo.com. And stay tuned to our podcast for more information.
I met her in the club down in Old Soho, where you drink champagne and it tastes just like cherry cola. C-O-L-A cola. She walked up to me and she asked me to dance. I asked her her name and in a dark brown voice she said Lola. L-O-L-A Lola. La-la-la-la-la.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, broadcasting and podcasting once again from the mothership. Be sure to check us out on all the podcast platforms if you missed any part of the radio show. Libsyn, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn Radio. I mean, Craig, we're everywhere and anywhere to catch the show.
And we've also got a YouTube channel as well. Make sure you check that out. All the podcasting platforms like you talked about on the radio on 98.5. Tune in. You can hear the show on the radio on TuneIn, and you can also listen to Rock 105 and Rock 95.5 all over Michigan and all over the world. And, of course, we're centered in mid-Michigan, the Mount Pleasant area, and that is where the 420 Canna Expo is going to be happening, surprisingly, on 420.
Yeah, and it's huge. It's free to the public, so be sure to check out 420cannaexpo.com. You can register for a free gift baggie as you come into the casino. We have a great lineup of speakers. There's going to be tons of vendors and exhibitors from every part of the industry. DJ Short's going to be in attendance speaking. Attorney Mike Camorn's going to be talking about the hemp farming bill. Attorney Denise Porlicella owning a cannabis business. It's going to be huge. Free to the public, 420 at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
It's going to be a big deal. And if you also want to be a vendor or you want to be a sponsor, check out 420cannaexpo.com to find out all the information about the 420 Canna Expo. April 20th at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort in Mount Pleasant, the biggest casino east of the Mississippi in this country. So if you're not from the Michigan area and you still want to come up, I know they've got a 4-diamond hotel there. We'll also have special room rates. You can find out more information about that at 420cannaexpo.com. There's a country concert that night. It's a huge casino. We'd love to have you come up for the 420 Canna Expo or come down, as it may be. Todd, show's over.
We got to go. We got to go.
Yep. Thanks to Attorney Steve Lehto. Also, thanks to Dr. Bob Townsend for being on the show.
And big shout out to myself and you, Craig Russell, the muscle. I'm not just a litigator. I'm an advocator. Take us out with my number one all-time favorite, Lola.
La, 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 la. Girls will be boys and boys will be girls. It's a mixed up, muddled up, shook up world. It's up my Lola. La 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 la. Well, I left home just a week before, and I'd never ever kissed a woman before. But Lola smiled and took me by the hand and said, "Diddy boy, I'm gonna make you a man." Well, I'm not the world's most masculine man, but I know what I am, and I'm glad I'm a man. So is Lola. Lola, 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 Lola.
The Todd L. Levitt Law Show, brought to you by Chad Malley-Well Drilling of Rosebush, Clark Modular Homes, your most experienced and trusted builder in Mount Pleasant, Clear Vision Windows, Siding, Roofing, and Attic Installation of Midland, Mackinac Properties and Northern Michigan Vacation Rentals, buying, selling, and renting properties in the Straits of Mackinac region since 1998, Tim's Collision Plus in Roscommon, Harrison Power Sports, Central Michigan's fastest-growing full-line Arctic Cat dealer, and Dr. Robert Townsend and Denali Healthcare for your alternative healthcare needs.
Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.